President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think her numbers were wrong. Just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election. Days before the election, she came out with these beautiful numbers for Kamala. I guess Biden/Kamala. And she came out with these beautiful numbers trying to get somebody else elected. Then right after the election, I think on the 15th, November 15th, she had an $800,000 or $900,000 massive reduction. Said she made a mistake. That woman...
The economy's on fire in the bad way. Trump just made matters way worse with firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here's Trump explaining why.
Well, I believe the numbers were phony, just like they were before the election, and there were other times. So you know what I did? I fired her.
Right.
And you know what? I did the right thing.
If any government official going forward is presenting data or information you don't like, should they fear for their job?
I've always had a problem with these numbers. You know, I was thinking about it this morning. Before the numbers that came out, I said, who is the person that does these numbers? And then they gave me stats about before the election. I had a similar problem. I mean, she gave out numbers that were so good for the Democrats. It was like unbelievable. And then right after the election, she corrected those numbers with...
In fact, slowed job growth is exactly what you would expect given Trump's tariff policy.
Of households and businesses report a sharp decline in sentiment and elevated uncertainty about the outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns.
Initiating and then retracting his tariffs over and over and over again has made U.S. companies uncertain about the future. Trump is so notorious for this behavior that Wall Street even has its own name for it.
The president was asked by a reporter about a new term used on Wall Street called the taco trade. Taco is an acronym which investors say stands for Trump always chickens out. The term inspired by his repeated retreats on tariffs after hiking them.
Trump firing the person who gave him accurate numbers of the effects of his policies is the most brain-dead thing he could do. It's telling everyone that they shouldn't trust any of the numbers coming out of the US government going forward, because if they aren't favorable to Trump, the person will just get fired. Cycle works like this. A job report gets released that doesn't make the current administration look good. Job growth report guy then gets fired for performance-related reasons.
I'm sorry, you're fired. Get out of here.
A mandate of the Federal Reserve is to keep unemployment low. The Federal Reserve can no longer trust job reports from the Bureau of Labor Statistics to be accurate, which makes the Fed worse at managing unemployment. This freaks out the private market and causes them to demand an increased yield from treasuries, which increases the price of all long-term loans. This increases the price of capital investment, which in turn decreases job growth and company creation. Telling the truth should never get you into trouble, because when you create an environment where lying is rewarded, it creates catastrophes down the line. And we're not guessing here. This was a major factor in Greece's debt crisis, and telling the truth was such a liability in Greece that they tried to prosecute a guy for trying to tell the right numbers. We shouldn't get complacent because being rich won't save us. We know this because the private market has completely lost faith in the Chinese government numbers. Whenever unemployment is too high or growth rates don't hit their required numbers in Chinese provinces, those numbers suddenly go offline, and months later they're released with flying colors that absolutely no one believes. Then the private market has to use more noisy and ineffectual ways of estimating the unemployment and GDP growth and this, that, and the third. Firing the head of the BLS is some total banana republic stuff, and for democracies to function efficiently and for the markets to function efficiently, we need to know the real truth about the state of the economy. How are we going to evaluate Donald Trump's performance if we don't know how average Americans are doing? How are we going to stop the economy from falling apart if we don't know if it's falling apart? And on top of all of that, there are geopolitical considerations as well. It increases the power of our sanctions, like we did when Russia invaded Ukraine. It gives us more leverage in things like the World Trade Organization, and it makes it so that it's easier to start a business in America, and we shouldn't take those benefits for granted. And if we keep messing around and losing the trust of the markets, things can change really fast. America benefits a lot from being a country that the private market trusts. The entire world sees the US dollar as a safe place to park their money because they can trust that nothing bad is going to happen to it. Being the reserve currency is one of our economy's crown jewels, and it makes us the envy of the entire rest of the globe. And we definitely don't want to give that up just because of some job growth revisions.